You know what's frustrating? Buying beautiful container plants every spring, babying them all summer, watching them die in fall, and having to start over next year. The endless cycle of buying annuals, replanting, watering constantly, and still ending up with empty pots by August. What if I told you there are 17 perennials that thrive in containers for years, come back bigger every spring, and require almost zero maintenance? No replanting every year, no constant deadheading, no daily watering once established. Just plant them once and watch them perform season after season. I'm about to save you hundreds of dollars and countless hours by showing you the perennials that actually work in pots. Plants that handle container life better than ground planting, that tolerate neglect, and that look stunning year after year. Welcome to Daily Garden Fix. If you're tired of the annual container planting treadmill, this video changes everything. Hit subscribe and let's talk about perennials that make container gardening effortless. Number 1. Coral bells, or Heuchera. The first container superstar is coral bells, those gorgeous foliage plants with leaves in burgundy, lime green, purple, orange, and silver. I have 12 coral bells in containers on my patio. Some have been in the same pots for 5 years. They look stunning spring through fall, survive Zone 4 winters in their pots, and I've done almost nothing to them beyond occasional watering. Why they're perfect? The foliage is the star. It provides color all season, not just during bloom. You get months of visual interest, not just weeks. They tolerate part shade beautifully, making them perfect for shady porches and patios where sun lovers fail. They're compact. Most stay 12 to 18 inches tall and wide, perfect for container scale. Container care? Plant in a pot at least 12 inches wide with drainage holes. Use quality potting mix. Water regularly the first season, then they're surprisingly drought tolerant. They overwinter in containers down to Zone 4 with no protection needed. Every 3 to 4 years, divide if they outgrow the pot. Varieties like Caramel, Obsidian, and Lime Ricky are bomb-proof in containers. Number 2. Catmint, or Nepeta. Catmint is the easiest container perennial I've ever grown. Billowing clouds of lavender blue flowers from May through September with silvery green aromatic foliage. I planted one catmint in a large pot 4 years ago. It blooms nonstop for 5 months, attracts butterflies and bees constantly, and survives on rainwater alone most summers. It's never looked better. Why it's perfect? The bloom time is incredible. Nearly 5 months of continuous flowers. It's drought tolerant once established, which is rare for container plants. Deer and rabbits won't touch it due to the aromatic foliage. It handles heat beautifully, actually prefers hot and dry conditions. Container care? Use a pot at least 14 inches wide, full sun is best. Water regularly the first season, then they handle dry spells well. Shear it back by 1/3 after the first flush of bloom for reblooming. It overwinters in containers in zones 3 to 8. Walker's Low and Six Hills Giant are the best varieties for containers. Number 3. Black-Eyed Susan, or Rudbeckia. Black-Eyed Susans are cheerful, golden yellow flowers that bloom for months and couldn't care less that they're in a pot instead of the ground. I have 3 Black-Eyed Susans in containers flanking my front steps. They've been there for 6 years, blooming from June to October every single season. They're so low maintenance, I sometimes forget to water them for a week and they're fine. Why they're perfect? They bloom for 4 months, June through October in most climates. They're native to North America, so they're adapted to handle stress. They tolerate poor soil, drought, heat, and neglect. They're tough as nails in containers. Container care? Plant in pots at least 12 inches deep. Full sun produces the most flowers. Water regularly the first season, then they handle dry spells well. Deadheading isn't necessary, but extends bloom. They overwinter in containers in zones 3 to 9. Gold Sturm is the classic variety for containers, compact and floriferous. Number 4. Ornamental grasses. Ornamental grasses might be the perfect container plant. They provide movement, texture, and year-round structure with zero fuss. I have 5 different grasses in containers around my patio. They've been in the same pots for 3 to 7 years. They look good spring through winter, never need deadheading, rarely need watering, and ask for nothing. Why they're perfect? They provide structure and movement, swaying in breezes, catching light beautifully. Most are drought tolerant once established. They look good for 10 to 12 months of the year, including winter, when dried plumes are architectural. They're nearly impossible to kill in containers. Container care? Use pots at least 14 to 18 inches wide for most varieties. Full sun to part shade works. Water regularly the first season, then they're drought tolerant. Cut them back to 4 to 6 inches in late winter. They overwinter in containers easily. Dry Catmint. Number 5. Hosta. Hostas are the shade garden champions, and they actually thrive in containers better than many gardeners realize. I have 8 hostas in pots in my shady side yard. They've been there for 4 years, getting bigger and more impressive each season. They're the easiest shade plants for containers I've found. Why they're perfect? They're the solution for shade containers where nothing else grows. The foliage provides color and texture all season. Blue-green, chartreuse, gold, variegated. They're incredibly low maintenance. Plant and forget. They handle container life beautifully and actually appreciate the controlled moisture. Container care? Plant in pots at least 16 inches wide for larger varieties, 12 inches for smaller types. Part shade to full shade works best. Keep soil consistently moist but not waterlogged. Fertilize lightly in spring. They overwinter in containers in zones 3 to 8 with no issues. Summon Substance, June, and Guacamole are excellent container varieties.
Number 6. Daylily. Daylilies are indestructible perennials that many people don't realize work beautifully in containers. I have 4 daylilies in large pots along my driveway. They've been there for 7 years, blooming prolifically every summer. They're so tough, I've honestly neglected them, forgotten to water for stretches, never fertilized, barely divided them, and they just keep performing. Why they're perfect? They're bulletproof. They tolerate drought, heat, poor soil, and neglect. They bloom for weeks or even months depending on variety. They're adaptable to full sun or part shade. Once established, they need almost nothing from you. Container care? Use large pots, at least 18 inches wide and deep, because daylilies develop substantial root systems. Water regularly the first year, then they're drought tolerant. Divide every 3 to 4 years if they outgrow the pot, or just let them be. They overwinter in containers zones 3 to 9. Stella de Oro is the classic reblooming daylily, perfect for containers. Number 7. Russian sage. Russian sage in containers is even better than in the ground because you can control its size and placement perfectly. I have 2 Russian sage plants in large containers on my sunny patio. They've been there for 5 years, creating that ethereal blue-purple haze every summer. They're so low maintenance, I water them maybe once a month. Why it's perfect? The silvery foliage and lavender blue flowers create a floating ethereal effect. It's extremely drought tolerant, thrives on neglect in containers. It blooms midsummer through fall when many plants are tired. Deer won't touch it due to aromatic foliage. Container care? Use pots at least 16 inches wide. Full sun is essential. Water regularly the first season, then rarely. It actually prefers dry conditions. Cut back hard in early spring to 6 to 8 inches. It overwinters in container zones 3 to 9. Russian sage handles container confinement beautifully and stays more compact than ground-planted versions. Number 8. Sedum. Sedums are the ultimate lazy gardener's container plant. They're succulents that thrive on neglect. I have 6 different sedums in containers. Some have been in the same pots for 8 years. I water them maybe a dozen times per summer. They look good spring through winter. They're nearly indestructible. Why they're perfect? They're drought tolerant to an extreme. They're literally built to store water. The foliage is attractive spring through fall, flowers bloom midsummer into fall, and dried flower heads provide winter interest. They require almost zero care, the definition of plant and forget. Container care? Plant in pots at least 10 inches wide with excellent drainage. Full sun is best. Water sparingly. They hate wet feet. No deadheading needed. No dividing required. They overwinter in containers zones 3 to 9. Autumn Joy, Autumn Fire, and Matrona are perfect for containers. Compact and stunning. Number 9. Coreopsis is one of the longest blooming perennials, and it performs even better in containers than in ground. I have Moonbeam Coreopsis in 4 containers on my patio. They bloom from June through November, 6 months of continuous yellow flowers. They've been in the same pots for 5 years with minimal care. Why it's perfect? The bloom time is unmatched, May, June through November in most climates. It's drought-tolerant once established. The flowers are cheerful and work with any color scheme. It stays compact in containers, perfect scale. Container care? Use pots at least 12 inches wide. Full sun produces the most flowers. Water regularly the first season, then it's drought-tolerant. No deadheading required. Shear back by 1/3 in midsummer if it gets leggy. It overwinters in container zones 4 to 9. Moonbeam and Zagreb are best compact varieties. Number 10. Salvia. Perennial salvias are container superstars. They bloom for months, attract hummingbirds, and ask for almost nothing. I have May night salvia in 6 containers around my patio. They've been there for 4 years, blooming twice per season, once in late spring, again in late summer. Hummingbirds visit daily. Why it's perfect? The vertical flower spikes add height and structure. They rebloom if you deadhead after the first flush. Hummingbirds and butterflies swarm them. They're drought-tolerant once established and deer and rabbit resistant. They look good even when not blooming. Container care? Use pots at least 12 inches wide. Full sun is best. Water regularly the first season, then they're drought-tolerant. Deadhead after first bloom for rebloom. Cut back to basal foliage in fall. Overwinter zones 4 to 8 in containers. May night, Cardona, and Blue Hill are excellent container varieties. Number 11. Echinacea or coneflower. Coneflowers are tough prairie plants that handle container life surprisingly well. I have 3 coneflowers in large pots flanking my garage. They've been there for 6 years, blooming heavily every summer, surviving harsh winters, and self-seeding into their own pots occasionally. Why they're perfect? They're native to North America and adapted to stress. They bloom for 8 to 10 weeks in summer. They attract butterflies and goldfinches who love the seed heads. They're drought-tolerant once established and deer-resistant. Container care? Use pots at least 14 inches wide and deep. Full sun produces the most flowers. Water regularly the first season, then they're handled dry spells. Deadhead extends bloom but not necessary. Leave seed heads for birds in fall. Overwinters zones 3 to 8 in containers. Magnus, white swan, and powwow wildberry are great for containers. Number 12. Astilbe. Astilbe is the queen of shade container plants. Feathery plumes of flowers in shade where most things fail. I have 5 astilbes in pots in my backyard. They've been there for 4 years, producing stunning pink, white, and red plumes every summer. They're the perfect shade solution. Why it's perfect? It thrives in shade, one of the few perennials that blooms beautifully without sun. The feathery flower plumes are elegant and long-lasting. The fern-like foliage is attractive all season. It handles container moisture requirements well. Container care? Plant in pots at least 14 inches wide, part shade to full shade. It prefers shade. Keep soil consistently moist. Astilbe doesn't like drying out. Fertilize lightly in spring. Deadhead spent flowers. Overwinter zones 3 to 8 in containers. Phenol, Bridal Veil, and Deutschland are compact varieties perfect for pots. Number 13. Lavender. Lavender in containers is actually better than in ground because you can control drainage perfectly and bring the fragrance right to your patio. I have 8 lavender plants in terracotta pots on my sunny patio. They've been there for 3 to 6 years. They bloom all summer, smell incredible, and basically take care of themselves. Why it's perfect? The fragrance is unbeatable. Brush against it on a hot day and smell Mediterranean summer. It's extremely drought-tolerant, prefers dry conditions. Bees love it. It's deer and rabbit resistant. It looks good even when not blooming. Container care? Use pots at least 12 inches wide with excellent drainage. Terracotta is ideal. Full sun is essential. Water sparingly. Let soil dry between waterings. Prune back by 1/3 after flowering. It overwinters zones 4 to 9 in containers, though protection helps in zones 5. English lavender varieties like Hidcote and Munstead are best for cold climates. Provence is classic. Number 14. Dianthus. Dianthus brings cottage garden charm and spicy sweet fragrance to containers with zero drama. I have 4 dianthus in containers on my front porch. They've been there for 5 years, blooming from May through July, reblooming in fall, and smelling like cloves every time I walk by. Why it's perfect? The fragrance is spicy and sweet, one of the best scented perennials. It's drought-tolerant once established. The grass-like foliage looks good all season. Many varieties rebloom multiple times per season. Container care? Plant in pots at least 10 inches wide with excellent drainage. Full sun produces the most flowers. Water regularly, but let soil dry slightly between waterings. They hate wet feet. No deadheading needed. No dividing required. They overwinter in container zones 3 to 9. Firewitch and Bath's Pink are excellent low-growing varieties for containers. Number 15. Geranium hardy. True hardy geraniums, not the annual geraniums, palindromes, are container superstars that bloom prolifically with minimal care. I have 6 hardy geraniums in pots around my patio. They've been there for 4 years, blooming spring through fall, handling neglect beautifully, and looking tidy all season. Why they're perfect? They bloom for months, late spring through fall depending on variety. They're tough and adaptable to various conditions. The foliage is attractive even when not blooming. They tolerate part shade better than most perennials. Container care? Use pots at least 12 inches wide, full sun to part shade works. Water regularly the first season, then they're fairly drought tolerant. Shear back after first bloom for rebloom. They overwinter zones 4 to 8 in containers. Roseanne is the superstar, bloom for months. Johnson's Blue is classic and reliable.
Number 16. Japanese forest grass. Japanese forest grass adds graceful, flowing texture to shade containers where most things struggle. I have 3 Japanese forest grasses in containers in my shady side yard. They've been there for 5 years, creating these gorgeous cascading mounds of golden or variegated foliage that glow in shade. Why it's perfect? It thrives in shade, brightens dark corners beautifully. The graceful arching habit is elegant and provides movement. It's low maintenance once established. The foliage color intensifies through the season. Container care. Plant in pots at least 14 inches wide. Part shade to full shade works best. It scorches in hot sun. Keeps soil consistently moist but not waterlogged. It's one of the few grasses that wants moisture. Overwinters zones 5 to 9 in containers. Areola, which is golden, and all gold are the most popular varieties. Number 17. Ajuga. The final container perennial is Ajuga, a ground cover that works beautifully as a thriller, filler, spiller combo on its own or underplanted beneath taller perennials. I use Ajuga in multiple containers, as an underplanting beneath hostas, and in mixed containers. It fills in gaps, provides color with its burgundy or variegated foliage, sends up blue flower spikes in spring, and spreads just enough to look full without being aggressive. Why it's perfect? The foliage provides color all season. Burgundy, bronze, or variegated varieties. Blue flower spikes appear in spring. It tolerates shade beautifully. It stays low, 4 to 6 inches, making it perfect for filling in container bases or growing solo. Container care. Plant in pots at least 10 inches wide or use as filler in larger mixed containers. Part shade to full shade works best. Keep soil evenly moist. It spreads to fill space but stays manageable in containers. Overwinters, zones 3 to 9. Chocolate chip, black scallop, and burgundy glow are stunning varieties. Now that you know the 17 best perennials for containers, let me share the essential tips that ensure success. Tip number 1, size matters. Use pots at least 12 to 18 inches wide for most perennials. Small pots dry out too fast and don't provide enough root space. Bigger is almost always better for perennials. Go as large as you can move and afford. Tip number 2, drainage is non-negotiable. Every container must have drainage holes. Perennials sitting in waterlogged soil will rot. If you love a pot without drainage, drill holes or use it as a decorative catch pot with a functional pot inside. Use quality potting mix. Don't use garden soil, it compacts in containers. Use bagged potting mix designed for containers. It drains well while retaining moisture. This is not the place to cut corners. Good soil is the foundation of container success. Water deeply but less often. Once established, most perennials prefer deep, infrequent watering over frequent, shallow watering. Let the top inch or 2 of soil dry between waterings. This encourages deep roots and prevents root rot. In summer heat, check containers daily, but only water when needed. Fertilize lightly. Container plants need more nutrients than ground-planted perennials because nutrients wash out with watering. Use a balanced, slow-release fertilizer in spring. That's usually enough for the season. Don't over-fertilize. It causes weak growth. Overwinter thoughtfully. In cold climates, containers dry out and freeze more severely than ground. Group pots together on the north side of your house for protection. Mulch over the top with straw or leaves, or move pots into an unheated garage for the coldest months. Most of these 17 perennials overwinter fine with minimal protection in their rated zones. Refresh soil every few years. Every 2 to 3 years, remove plants in spring, shake off old soil, trim roots slightly, and repot with fresh potting mix. This refreshes nutrients and prevents soil compaction. It's the container equivalent of dividing perennials in the ground. Think long-term. Unlike annuals, perennials in containers are a long-term investment. You'll have them for years. Choose pots you love and plants you want to see every day. This isn't disposable gardening. These plants become part of your outdoor living space year after year. Here's what changed my patio gardening completely. Shifting from annuals to perennials in containers. For years, I spent $300 to $400 every spring buying annuals, petunias, impatiens, geraniums. By August, half were dead or looking terrible. By November, everything went to the compost pile. Then March arrived, and I started over with another $300 to $400 investment. 7 years ago, I switched to perennials. I spent about $250 on perennial container plants. Most of those original plants are still on my patio today, bigger, more beautiful, more established. I haven't spent more than $50 per year since then to add a few new varieties. Do the math. 7 years of annual containers would have cost me $2,400 to $2,800. My perennial containers cost me $250 initially, plus maybe $300 over 7 years for additions and potting soil refresh. I saved over $2,000 while having better-looking containers that require less work. Beyond money, think about the time saved. No more spring shopping marathons. No more starting seeds indoors. No more planting out tender annuals. No more constant deadheading and watering. Perennials do their thing with minimal input. And they get better every year. That first year, they're getting established. Second year, they're filling out. By year 3, they're stunning, mature specimens that look like you spent hundreds of dollars at a high-end nursery. Container gardening doesn't have to be expensive, high maintenance, or temporary. With the right perennials, it can be easy, affordable, and permanent. These 17 perennials have transformed my patio into a beautiful outdoor room that changes with the seasons but never needs complete replanting. Spring brings fresh growth, summer brings blooms, fall brings seed heads and colorful foliage, winter brings structure. It's gardening on easy mode, the way it should be. Which of these 17 perennials are you going to try first? Or do you already have some of these in containers? Let me know in the comments. If this video convinced you to ditch annuals and try perennials in containers, hit that like button and share it with someone who's tired of replanting every spring. Subscribe to Daily Garden Fix for more practical, money-saving, time-saving gardening strategies that actually work. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and remember, the best container gardens are the ones that practically take care of themselves. Happy planting, friends!